Times will be tough, rough and ruthless, terrorist acts. There will be catastrophic problems caused by human factors. There will be many conflicts, many issues, and many situations that will be impossible to even think about in a clear mind. To speak an accessible language is simply to die. You can only break through all of this based on who you are in this world, what your quality is in this world, and what you represent here.
The 2025 year is the most dangerous year for human energy. How to cope, what to do, and what not to do in order to survive.
What to do, survive, what to do. The hardest period of time lies ahead for us now. Moreover, information comes from various sources, including the activity of our sun. There is wholeness, and in this wholeness, when an event occurs, it seeps into all levels. Accordingly, at the level of the earth, vibrations are changing, and at the level of the sun, vibrations are changing as well. And all of this is recorded by instruments. I am not sitting there observing how the vibrations change. It is all recorded by instruments. But the same processes are occurring at the energetic level. Right now, our planet, or rather our solar system, is going through a certain energy density, implying a very strong dimming of consciousness. That is, consciousness will be crystallized, people will become insensitive, people will become rigid, people will become foolish. In their foolishness, they will seek motivation for their actions. The actions, of course, will be extremely questionable. And there will be many conflicts, there will be many problems, there will be many situations that will be discussed in a bright consciousness. It will even be impossible to think. But right now, at this very moment in time, it will be extremely interesting, so to speak, to live. There will be all sorts of terrorist acts. There will be catastrophic problems caused by human factors. And what is most unpleasant about all this is that this conflict knows no boundaries. It will sweep across the entire territory of our planet. It doesn't matter where you are, so you can hide in a bunker, yes. You will have some kind of staff there, and if something snaps in someone's head, they might go and commit sabotage. Why did it snap? What caused the outburst? You know, I've long noticed that if a person does something foolish, they can always justify it. Always. And only if he slightly loosens and expands his consciousness, then he will not find justifications for himself. He simply won't find them. He won't be able to do it. But if his consciousness is constricted, if his consciousness is spasmed, then he will justify any of his actions. And it does not matter at all what the causality of all this will be. I used to say that if a person is prone to being offended, they will definitely get offended. It doesn't depend on you. They will do it anyway. It's the same here. People who tend to fall into such a state filled with foolishness, idiocy, and fanaticism will inevitably do so. And it doesn't matter what the cause is. The scariest part is that you won't be able to guess who is good and who is bad. Just yesterday, a person could talk to you calmly, but today they might hate you. Why? Some news has come and gone. And that's it. And when the rhythms of our planet, the rhythms of our nature support consciousness, helping it to be more agile, more open, and more radiant. I don't know, you can choose any epithets, it doesn't matter which. The main thing is that the essence is clear. Then a person simply does not take actions that he feels something is wrong with. Yes, they might tell him that he needs to do it this way, and he will say, no, that sounds like nonsense, I won't do it. But right now, from 1924 to 1926, consciousness is constrained, and a person will easily do this and find 500 justifications for why they did it. They will sincerely believe that they are right, just because his consciousness is very tightly constrained, just because he has lost. This is the inner feeling of wholeness and unity of the world. He perceives himself as a certain cut-off, severed part, and accordingly, this is how very terrible deeds and noble actions are sometimes justified. A person does not feel another person in any way. For him, another person is something immaterial. And it is precisely the feeling of unity that comes through awareness, it comes through consciousness. Therefore, the times will be tough, rough, harsh, and ruthless. But this must happen. These are the rhythms of the universe. And these rhythms of the universe do not occur to injure and destroy us in any possible way, but to bring about separation. Separation in the sense of filtering people who are here based on their level of consciousness and their internal position. Because if a person, for example, has a very rigid internal position, then even in a clouded consciousness, they will not allow themselves to commit certain acts and actions. If he does not have this internal position, if he is simply spread thin across reality, then he very easily turns the goal into a puppet or just into some kind of fanatic or perform some action absolutely unconsciously, like a mechanism that is not even as a human performs this action. One does something absolutely instinctively, that is, without filtering it through either their rational part or their conscious part, just pure instinct, and that's it. And now this is at its peak. Right now we are at the apogee of these processes. Then they will, of course, start to decline. Those who will pass through them will be strong, conscious individuals, those who will be able to survive this time. And those who are weak, spineless, and aimless are most likely to be filtered out in any way. Well, to put it simply, they will just die. What age groups are at risk? All of them. Absolutely everyone. This child's invulnerability won't work here, because the child, first of all, has already lived here for at least 9 months, in a more or less humanized form, in a material form. And when he is born into the world, he already carries a certain baggage of knowledge. Yes, this knowledge is very primitive. This knowledge is at the level of reflexes, at the level of some pleasures and displeasures, but he has already gone through some part of the material path. And so, having come into the world, he already represents something. And what he represents matters. Therefore, among the groups at risk, the elderly stand out particularly in all of this. Because if children, teenagers, and adults still have some opportunity to change, and yet there is a quite real possibility to start a second life. Here it goes, rolling, 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 rolling off the edge. Here someone has changed themselves and started a new life. There is such an opportunity. The elderly have practically no such opportunity at all. And if they have gone off the rails, if they have been following this worn path, then it is almost impossible for them to break free from it. Yes, they can somehow be retrieved from there, but who will do it? Who has enough hands to pull out every elderly person? Naturally, it is the responsibility of the children. But if the children can barely hold on to their own states, then what support can they have? What backing?
No. How can one save themselves at all? What should be done? What do you recommend?
You know, I probably won't be original in my answer, but one must find their heart after all. One must find the divinity in the heart. It can be called the soul. It can be called whatever you like. Natural, natural, natural. And so, through this process, one can go through the events that will occur. That is, not to hide from the events, not to run to where the place of power is, where everyone will be saved. This is a meaningless endeavor because I say once again, it is happening all over the territory of the planet. You can climb somewhere into the mountains, dig in somewhere, I don't know, near a mountain lake, and then you might get swept away into that lake by some mudslide that came down from the mountain, or something else like that will happen. In other words, there will be problems everywhere. And so breaking through all of this will only be possible based on who you are in this world. What is your quality in this world? What do you represent here? And not in the sense of what you have accomplished with your hands, but what are your vibrations? And this is why I talk about the soul. I can speak about this unconditional love, but for now, these are just terms. These terms are spoken very often, a lot, but overall they change nothing. What is the essence? The essence is that a person is not just matter. A human is also a certain divine weighing structure. He exists simultaneously in two states, in a state of divinity and in a state of a material body. And if he is oriented towards the state he has in his soul, specifically the state, vibrations, fiery nature, glow, mobility, whatever can be said, so that external events will not pull him out of this state if he is strong in it, if he strives for it. If he is oriented towards external events, the whole world is dimming right now, and he will immediately start to dim along with the entire world. It's like sticking your tongue to a metal object in the cold. You instantly get stuck to it. But if you keep your tongue in your mouth where it's warm, it doesn't stick to anything there. Everything is fine. It's the same here. If you are oriented towards your soul, towards that state where everything is manifested, where everything burns, where wholeness is evident, where unity is obvious, where consciousness is open to 360 degrees, that is not narrowed down to some specific problem like, oh, the war has started, and that's it. You see nothing else. You just see that the war has started. And there, consciousness is fully revealed, and you then have the opportunity to see both the causes and the effects and the divine intentions, how everything is arranged and how everything is connected. But to see this, you need a role model. Where will you find this role model? In a wooden frame with a picture? There is no role model there.
So, how can you understand if your soul is activated, if it is burning, and if you are connected to it? Or how can you tell that you do not have this connection and you do not feel your soul?
You have already emphasized the right points in the very question. It burns, and you can feel it. If you feel like it's burning here, burning with fire, burning with heat, it really feels like there's a furnace here. So you are oriented towards the state of your soul. That is, you try to synchronize with it. You are trying to bring that timeless essence here, and now. You pull this state here, and here you start to transmit it. And from the fact that you are transmitting it, you physically, not imagining it there, not visualizing it, but physically feel the heat in your chest. It starts from an area in the middle of the heart, but gradually it spreads into a rather wide, voluminous structure, and it simply radiates heat. This is a feeling at the level of physics. It's the same sensation as when you approach, for example, a heat gun, and you put your hand in front of it, and the heat comes out. Interaction with one's soul and learning are, in essence, to some extent, uncorrelated terms. When you look, there is a basic process. This is a basic, technical, physical, energetic process. Where you direct your attention, there flows your consciousness, and with that you begin synchronization. For example, here I am directing my attention to you, and with each hour spent with you, I don't know, I feel you better and better, I understand you, I already know your facial expressions. In other words, I am studying you, I am synchronizing with you, and at some point we can just sit and exchange glances and everything will be clear. If I direct my attention to, say, some harsh news, it starts to crystallize me, and I become a fool in that moment because my perception narrows down to a very specialized problem. But if I direct my attention to the heart, there is an area called Bindu, the Bindu of the heart. But the funny thing is that it's even in the books, meaning I'm not making this up, it's actually in the physical literature that the Bindu is impossible to grasp. However, you can aim for it and then it will come to meet you on its own. So if you are technically trying to find it, I can say, well, approximately in the middle of the heart, look somewhere around there. But this is not entirely accurate, it is not entirely clear. A person must strive to hear and perceive themselves at the level of divinity in their heart. And so when a person focuses there and keeps their attention in that area, meaning not on you, nor on the camera, I don't know, nor on any figurine in front of their eyes, that is, they do not pull their attention away from themselves to any large object or to a photograph, but rather on themselves. Here he withdrew into himself and took a position, that is, he set the vector of his attention. There is multidimensionality there. There is no such thing as up, down, or left, right. The space is twisted and turned inside out, meaning that it won't work there. Going somewhere, you can only set the vector of your intentions there. And if your intention, if your position is to hear, perceive, and feel yourself in a state of divinity, in a state of the soul, then somehow, magically, those vibrations, those processes, what you represent there, begins to become noticeable to you. Little by little, bit by bit, drop by drop. And when this becomes noticeable to you, you experience such a thrill, such an absolutely ungrounded happiness. You feel so good, you know, as if you have returned home, where you haven't been for a very long time. For some reasons that are unclear, you don't even, well, there, I rushed into this house, you had forgotten about its existence, and here you remember, here it is, here is what I was looking for, trying to bury myself somewhere in some corner of the material world, but it was nowhere to be found. So you think you need to go somewhere, I don't know, to Bali, and then you arrive and it's not there. India, ashram, I'll go to the saints. And then you arrive. Cool, but not quite. Something is missing. This something is right here. And you don't need to go anywhere. You just take a moment, dive into your heart, and find yourself in a state of absolute manifestation. And you're like, yes, I found myself. And so, due to this synchronization, heat begins to flow out from here. That is to say, the vibrations, which can undoubtedly be called love. Please, I mean, I'm not against it. But this state, just the word love, has already been distorted beyond recognition. It is precisely this warmth, this heat that begins to emanate from here that starts to create around you a field of, well, let's call it love. And when reality sees you with such vibrations like, well, the stone that is falling now will fall next to you, not on you. In other words, reality itself begins to protect you. At this moment, you become, one could say, in the bosom of God. The Bible describes the conversations of Abram with God. And Abraham asks, look, you destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Surely there were righteous people there, and you destroyed them all. How can this be? He says, no, everything is correct. He asks, well, how is it correct? At least there were 100 righteous people there. He says there weren't any. He says, and what if there were? Abraham asks God, and if there were 100 righteous people there? He says, I would not touch that city. And so they begin this dialogue, and the conversation reaches the point where Abraham says, listen, if there were 10 righteous people there, would you destroy that city? He says that if he had found at least 10 righteous people there, he would not have touched those cities, but he did not find them there. And here you are, vibrating with these fiery processes that are called the unconditional love of your heart into the space around you, becoming that righteous person who protects not only themselves. What does it mean to protect? There is nothing to destroy them for. That is, there are no deaths without causality. If you are an extremely questionable person who just goes around and messes everything up, there is a reason to get rid of you, because you are ruining the harmony. You are disrupting the balance in the space. If you radiate the state in which you find yourself in your soul, we are one and whole, then there is no reason to destroy you. Your vitality is soaring into space, and thanks to your vitality, no matter what happens around you, it won't affect you. You don't have to look far for an example. Here we are right now in Bali. Right during the course, while the cocoon was being released, a volcano erupted here in Indonesia. Not a single muscle in me twitched. On the contrary, I said it is a sign from Devi that the processes we are undertaking are similar, and she is winking at us with these manifestations at the level of the universe. That is, it is yet another piece of such happiness and of the fact that reality hears you, not the slightest fear.
Is what you just told me enough for me to learn how to ignite that fire within my heart? Or are there any additional materials that you would recommend?
You have enough, but I still recommend it in most cases, to take a precisely calibrated system. One of such systems I promote, I show. Through this system, I ignited my heart. And if there are any difficulties in this process, you don't have to crash into your chest with both feet. But sometimes you do crash in, and there is a wall, and that happens. But we need to take this wall apart brick by brick and still manage to dive in there. That's why I know your energy. Of course, it's easy for me to do this. In most cases, people who try to do it with a snap of their fingers may encounter some problems. And these problems also come to me as endless questions. Here I felt it. You said there is heat, there is pain. You said heat, there is some concrete monolithic block here. I say you are absolutely right in what you feel. I fought with these blocks myself, struggled, broke them, pierced through and shattered them. I battled for 6 years with this area to reach my soul. And I fought through those practices, that system which I am now demonstrating. I succeeded. Accordingly, those people who take advantage of this will also succeed as an option.
What course should one take to gain the knowledge that will help establish a connection with their soul? Both courses need to be taken?
You see, if a person is truly interested in their self-development, there is a lot of useful information available, a wealth of knowledge that covers a significant part of human activity, applicable both in everyday life and in meditation, as well as in extreme situations. In other words, there is a lot of knowledge. And all this knowledge cannot be discarded from this structure that is called practical energy, and therefore I cannot casually dissect the knowledge that I have. On the contrary, gathered into cohesive courses. That is, there are forces of consciousness related to practical energy, and there are forces of consciousness related to transcendent speed. These are all the steps of one structure. This is everything through which I trained myself, everything through which I educated myself. I am confident in this system, because not only I have gone through it, but also many other practitioners who are now extremely successful in their lives. Yes, in different aspects. I am not saying that they are successful in the sense of businessmen. Successful in the sense that they are happy, that everything is going well for them, and that they are completely satisfied with their lives. And I am also passing on this system, showing it exactly as it was, passed on and shown to me in my time.
Do you want to unlock your inner strength and learn to manage energy? The course, Power of Consciousness 1. Practical energy will provide you with tools to improve health, develop intuition, and gain a deeper understanding of the world. Join and start changing your life right now. Link in the description.